great to see. Loud and clear. All right, thanks for watching, Andrew and Rodney and David and others. Let's make a start. Tuesday's tip today brought to you by me, Tom Putt. All right, so what we're looking at today is we had a request from Tribe member Nicole Andrews, who wanted to know more about masks in Photoshop. So we're going to take a little bit of a dive into Photoshop today. Look, I claim to be no expert in Photoshop. I use it rarely these days, although I have been using Photoshop since Photoshop version number 3, which was back in 1998. I think Photoshop was invented or brought to life back in about 1993. So not long after it was released. So I was a heavy user of Photoshop up until sort of Lightroom took over. So given the fact that I haven't used Photoshop for a long while, I claim to be no expert, okay? Good morning, Jackie. Michelle, a very wet New Zealand. Sorry to hear that. Not to worry. Bright and sunny here today in Melbourne, 30 degrees, absolutely sensational. Picture postcard perfect, just like me. So, hey, let's take a start. This is a photograph that I took yesterday morning on our one-day workshop here down on the Mornington Peninsula. And this was taken pre-sunrise, of course. This is dawn. Let's have a look at the time, so to speak. Let's see, what time was it? If you just press I on the keyboard, it's not 4:41. This was clearly in pre-daylight saving time, so that would have been 5:41 in the morning. You need to change that. There's a reminder for everybody out there to change the time on your cameras, those who live in the proper states where we have daylight saving. All right, Sue. Cloudy and windy up here in sunny Queensland. All right, okay. We've got the pick of the weather this morning here, folks. 2.5 exposure, as you saw there. Again, if you just keep pressing I on the keyboard in Lightroom, it just flicks through this. It's telling me the date, the time, the number of megapixels. Click I again, and it takes you through to 1.5 seconds. F16, ISO 100. How's this little squiggle here? Isn't that gorgeous? That's created by this light up there. Neat little LED light, I think it is. Anyway, if we were to look at this like we were yesterday, and we were to say, let's say, yes, Sue, it is 8 o'clock in the morning for you up there in sunny Queensland. So a couple of the participants yesterday were saying, to improve this image even more, wouldn't it be great if we could just lighten these boats here, on the left-hand side in particular, or maybe these others in the background as well. Now, you could do that a couple of different ways. One is that you could dive here into Lightroom and you could use the adjustment brush, and we could, brush some light into here, okay? Just like we're doing here, right? Brush some light into there. Make sure we've got the auto mask box ticked here so that if it spills over the edge, for example, in where this, let's go in a bit closer, in here, using the square brackets on the keyboard, we can make this smaller, and if we were to spill over the edge there, it wouldn't obviously spill over. Let's have a look and see if it has. No, a little bit, it has a little bit here. You can just go erase, and now the minus symbol has come up inside of that brush, and I can erase that out, okay? But let's say that we don't want to do that here. We want to, for example, perhaps like Nicole, we're far more comfortable with using Photoshop, particularly for those more strategic / fiddly things. Why don't we then right click on this photograph here, go edit in Photoshop, okay? Right click, edit in Photoshop, and let's open this up in Photoshop. Look, skipping across to Photoshop. When it's ready, hello, good morning everybody. Here's one I prepared earlier. In fact, it's going to open the same file again. That is fine. So here we go. We're in Photoshop. Don't be too scared for those who perhaps aren't all that familiar with Photoshop. Over here we have the layers palette, and if you can't find that, just go to Windows and make sure layers is ticked, okay? The Windows palette, okay? In terms of landscape photography and processing your images, I would like to say, although Adam Williams or Christian Fletcher, two good mates of mine who run their own Photoshop courses, and I thoroughly recommend you check out each of those if you love Photoshop or you're intrigued by what you see today and you'd like to learn more. Certainly go to them because they are the experts. I claim to be no expert in Photoshop. I know my way around roughly, but as I said, I don't use it all that often. So Christian Fletcher and Adam Williams, I'll put links in the comments after this video in order for you to get access to their information. But if you like what you see here, really, I feel that as a landscape photographer, if you can master layers, masks, and selections, so if you can learn about layers and how they work, masks and how they operate, and then how to do various selections, okay, because there's many different ways to make a selection in Photoshop. If you can master those three techniques, you can do a hell of a lot in Photoshop and you'll really know your way around very, very well indeed. Okay, so let's just touch on layers and masks this morning. Okay, so first and foremost, and again, this is a trick I learned from Christian Fletcher years ago when we did a workshop together. First and foremost, one of the best things to do here is we said that we want to, let's just move this across, we want to lighten these boats, okay? Now, this is, I feel, one of the best ways to do it. We go in here and on this little icon down the bottom of the layers palette, which is a circle, split diagonally, okay? One side is white, the other side is black. If you go here and you click curves, okay? We have our curves layer here, okay? Similar to levels, just on a diagonal. If we were to click in the middle and drag this upwards, it's a bit like using the exposure slider in Lightroom. Just think of it that way. We've just grabbed the exposure slider and we've dialed it to the right. It's had a similar effect here. It's lifted the midtones because this is the midtones here in the curve. And all I'm looking at here is the boats. Is that the luminosity, is that the lightness I want in these boats, okay? Based on lightening those, but nothing else, okay? Just think of that for the minute. Just say to yourself, is that what I want? Yes, okay. Let's run with that. Now, of course, that's lightened the whole image. Everything, not just the boats. We don't want that. So what we're going to do here, Nicole, is we are going to basically just not delete, but we're going to cancel out that adjustment that we've made, but using the mask. So we're not getting rid of this layer. You'll notice that by creating that curves adjustment, that it automatically created this layer above my background layer. Okay, so we've got two layers there now. We're going to press Alt, Delete. No, we're not. We're going to press, no, we're not. That's what we're going to do. We're going to press Command Delete on the keyboard. That was in on a Mac. On a PC, I think you'll find that it's Control Delete. When you have the selection or you've clicked on that mask and you click Command Delete, for example, on a Mac, it fills that mask with black. Now, what you need to know about masks is that black conceals and white reveals. What does that mean? Well, over here, we've got a black and white, two square boxes here, okay? Foreground and background, so to speak. Don't worry too much about what that means for the minute. As you can see here, what's happened is that the mask is black, so the mask has concealed the adjustment that we made with that curves adjustment. And if you, by the way, if you wanted to just adjust that and say, okay, let's pick it back a bit, you can just double click on that. But let's not do that for now because we haven't done anything with that. We are now going to, with white here, okay, click on the black and white here, swap them around. We want white at the front, we want white to the front. We're going to now use our brush and paint white onto that black mask. And as I said before, white reveals, black conceals. So the black mask is deleting everything in that adjustment layer that we just made with the curves. Hope you're following along here. And what we're going to now do is click on that mask. We're going to select the brush, B for brush, the brush is over here, but B for brush on the keyboard. And we can make various adjustments in terms of the hardness of the brush, the and the size of the brush and the actual shape of the brush. Let's for the minute go with a hard round brush, okay? Let's go hardness, you know, somewhere up at the top there. Hardness being how much of a feather does it have on the edge? And if we've got it up near 100%, obviously it has no feather, and down the other end, it's got lots of feather, okay? Again, you can adjust this as you go, okay? And let's go with that, and let's now start painting onto that mask. You see what I'm doing here? What I'm doing here, and you'll see here in the mask, although it's very small, somebody remind me again who's a better expert at Photoshop than me, how do I bring that mask up to show on the big image here so I can show everybody what I'm doing? Just let me know that when you're finished. We can zoom in. The best thing about doing this is twofold. One is you want to get right in there, okay? You want to get it right in there. You want to make this brush refined, okay? We're painting in. So you can zoom right in on these pixels, okay? Use the square brackets to make this really small, and we can paint in this adjustment here. The other thing is too, we can paint in the flow. We can have the flow of the brush to be different here, you see? We can go in at 100%, okay? Which means that it's gonna paint through that adjustment, okay? Exactly like we did on that curves layer, okay? Or we can back that off and paint carefully in there, okay? But as you can see here, we're just painting the adjustment in because we really want to reveal that curves adjustment that I did earlier. And you can see with the brush, the way I've got it, it's nicely just filling in that ledge, okay? What are we trying to do here? We're trying to lighten these boats, okay? Do you get my drift? I'm not going to do this forever here because of time, and we like to keep these tips relatively short. Now, you can do that, for example, okay? Now, here's the best thing about this. You can turn it on and off. You can turn that layer off so you can see the adjustment that you've made just by pressing that I, okay? And you can go, yes, do I like that? Do I not? The other thing is too, is that as I said before, two things. No, I'm going to put in something else here. If, for example, you are brushing in and you go over the edge, just like we've done there. We don't want the water to be revealed there. We just want the adjustment to be on the bow of the boat there, because we're lightening the boats, for example. We just press X on the keyboard, X, and you see how that's swapping over here on the left-hand side. It's swapping over the black to white, the white to black. If we have black at the front rather than white, what does that do? Remember, black conceals, white reveals, and so we can paint that away, okay? And that's the beauty of this mask, is that I can paint in that curves adjustment, that brightness that I made, press X on the keyboard again, get in here and I can start painting in that adjustment. I can change the flow. If it's coming out too fast and I want to slow that down, I can change it. If I go over the edge, like here, oops, just got a bit drunk there. Press X on the keyboard, it's painting black into there and it's deleted that, which is great. The other thing I can do is that if I finish that mask and I'm looking at it and I'm going, do you know what, I like the adjustment that I've done there. I like the fact that it's lightened the boats, but I think it's a bit too much. I think it's a little too obvious that I've done that, painted in that light. Double click on the curves layer here, this curves symbol, and just back that off. You see, just back it off. Just take that curves adjustment down a little, okay? And you can have that as strong or as intense as you like, strong as or intense, as strong or as weak as you like, okay? Once you've painted in that mask, you can do whatever you like. That is a very basic introduction to masks in Photoshop. I hope that makes sense to you, okay? What I do love about that technique is that what you're basically doing is just using a brush to gently brush in the light, and it could be any other adjustment that you want to do here as well. You know, it could be it could be that you want to desaturate the blue in that, for example. So you can go saturation, let's desaturate the image there. It's desaturated the whole image. Okay, we don't want to desaturate the whole image. With the mask selected, we press Command Delete. It's now filled that adjustment or that mask with black there, and then B for brush, and then again, we can then start painting over the boats there. And of course, what's that doing? It's actually desaturating the blue out of those boats because we feel they're too blue, for example. I hope that makes sense to you. I hope that's given you an insight into how to use masks in Photoshop. But what I do love about that technique that Christian taught me many years ago is the fact that you're making the adjustment, cancelling it out altogether, and then just painting it in where you want it to be, which is very, very powerful. As you can see here, we can go down here, and in the brush, we can now start painting this into these boats over here, for example. You know what I mean? And it's so flexible because you can change the hardness of the brush here, you can change the size of the brush, you can change the flow of the brush, and then once you've painted in the masks, if you go over the edge, X to swap to black, conceal the mistakes you've made, X to keep going, and then if you want, you can double click on that curves adjustment layer and you can easily just brighten that or darken that accordingly. That is genius, and I hope that's given you a little bit of an introduction to how to use Photoshop, particularly masks. It is such a powerful program, and really if you're loving that and you're thinking to yourself, I'd love to learn more about that, I would encourage you to join up for either Christian or Adam's courses online, because they really know what they're talking about. Adam's got a fantastic introduction to Photoshop. I would probably start with that and then move on to Christian's training once you've done Adam's, because Christian goes to the next level. He's bloody awesome, as they both are. So look, hope you enjoyed that, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next week on Tuesday's tip. See you later, guys. Bye.